Rolling.
Welcome back to the Get Louder podcast. We have a very, very special guest today.
Yes, we do.
1.8 million followers on TikTok, 25 million likes.
Some like.
131 subscribers on YouTube.
Some like.
270,000 followers on IG. He is the host of the Working Class Podcast and CEO of Centurion Trial Attorneys. We have
the labor lawyer,
Ryan Steiger.
Wow. Where's the smoke machine? Damn.
Where's the disco ball, bro? I told you not.
How am I supposed to stay seated after that?
Hey, welcome, man. How you doing today?
Good to be here, man. Good to be here. God, that's an adrenaline shot. Thank you.
Yes, mission accomplished.
Oh, man.
Thanks for coming on, man.
No, thanks
Great
for
to
having
have
me.
you.
Stoked to be here, guys.
For sure.
Yeah, man, it was awesome, man. We messaged you and you got back to us, which was a shock.
Yeah,
appreciate
occasionally
it.
I see the DMs.
Right?
You know? I try not to go into hidden requests because it's kind of nightmare fuel over there. It's mostly people telling me I suck, spam bops, or guys trying to date me. It's a weird and strangely horny place. So when I see a note from a legitimate guy saying, "Hey, we want to interview you and talk about actual work that you do," I'm like, finally, thank goodness, someone normal. So thank you. Thank you.
No problem, man. Like you've had you've done a lot of things before you even became an attorney.
Yeah, I've had a pretty non-traditional path to getting into law. Most lawyers you meet, they kind of come through higher education and jump right into it, which is fine. That's a great way to do your career. But I was a firefighter before I was an attorney.
Right.
And after I was a firefighter and I was trying to get into law, there was this sort of, I call them the lost years. I drove for Uber. I worked construction a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually made me better at being an employment lawyer because I know what working class, like blue collar people are going through. I know what it's like to work 3 jobs and still barely be paying rent. I mean, there's so many people right now, you're stuck in perpetual full-time side hustles, just trying to make ends meet. So I'm grateful for those experiences. They were tough. I think it makes me better at my job now. So untraditional paths, I think if you're thinking of changing careers, if you're in your early 30s, late 20s, and you think it's too late, it's absolutely not.
Right.
Yeah, it's never too late.
I like that because a lot of people think they turn 30. They're like, it's too late. I should have already been knowing what I wanted to do.
Right.
And they don't realize your 20s is actually for experimentation. Try a bunch of things. Find out what you like, what you don't like. And when you turn 30, when you turn 40, it's never too late to do what you love.
Oh, yeah. And too many people hit their 30s and think they're locked in. They think, this is my life, this is my personality, I'm too old. It's not. Your whole life you're going to be changing. You can reinvent yourself in your 50s or 60s.
Right.
I mean, really, in my opinion, when you stop reinventing yourself, when you stop trying new things, that's when you're over the hill.
Exactly.
It's not a number, it's a mindset. It's when you stop trying new shit.
Exactly.
Can I say shit on here?
You
I'm
can say
sorry.
whatever you want.
You just said it twice, actually.
Oh, I did? He's got a little swear counter. It's like, we get demonetized
Put a
at
coin
5.
in the jar.
Keep it down.
It's totally fine.
Yeah.
We don't need YouTube's money.
Okay. Right on.
So that's cool. So you're born and raised San Diego.
Born and raised San Diego.
Awesome.
Love it.
What high school did you go to?
Went to San Pasqual High.
San Pasqual.
Yeah, that's North
Nice.
County.
Yeah.
There's 3 schools in Escondido. So,
Yeah.
public school's a trip. Actually, new news in labor law. California's trying to pass a new law that would require a 1-week course on your rights as an employee. And it would be in all public schools. So I went through public school, came out, got a job, like most people do, and I had no idea what my rights were. And the first person I met who told me what my rights as an employee were was a boss who, 1, didn't actually know, and 2, had a financial interest in me not knowing any better. That's the first person I'm learning from. That's the first person. So thank God now they've got this idea. I don't know if it's going to pass or not. I hope it does. But 1-week mandatory course on your rights.
Huh. So how do you think that's going to affect, I guess, people in their job? Like, if I know my rights, how's that going to change, I guess, how I operate in the workplace?
That's a really good question because I think one thing, I'm not reading your mind, but a lot of people think, what's the point of even knowing my rights? The boss will just fire me the minute I say anything. So what good is me knowing my overtime rights? Well, it's one thing to know, look, If I'm working over 40 hours in a week, I get time and a half after that. If I need sick leave, my boss has to pay me, and here's the minimum amount of sick leave I'm entitled to, things like that. But also learning your rights to protect yourself if they punish you, if they retaliate, if they threaten to fire you, if they fire you for no reason after you just said there's an error on your time card.
Right.
If you know your rights, you know, all right, that's retaliation. They're saying it's no reason, but they don't have any proof. I, on the other hand, have a screwed up time card and a text message saying it's screwed up. So who's going to win this case? And then you learn, oh, most employment lawyers work on contingency. I don't even need to pay an hourly fee to get help for this. Oh, the labor board is free. I don't even need to go to an attorney. I can go file with the DIR and get this done myself. When you start learning all of those things, work becomes way less scary. And you also got to remember, most employees, they don't have a lot to offer. You have your time and your expertise. You know, you're not selling couches or widgets or anything like that. You're selling your time, and that is an irreplaceable resource. So I think it's completely unacceptable that we would ever look at this precious, irreplaceable resource and say, well, I have no power. The boss is just going to take it and not pay it for it.
You know, I always think is, so with any law, there's always going to be the opposition that's going to try to maneuver things into their favor, right? Like I've only had, like my only legit job on a, like a W-2 was, I think, a dishwasher when I was like 20 years old or something.
Where was that at?
In North Park. I first worked at Claire de Lune's.
Wow.
As a dishwasher. I left there to be a commercial fisherman.
What?
After a few months. Yeah. So I was a commercial fisherman where we worked 18 to 22 hours every single day.
I noticed you
7
still have
days
all
a
your
week.
fingers. You're one of the few.
Yes.
That is, I think commercial fishing is one of the top 3 most dangerous jobs in the U.S. in terms of injury rates. People think things like firefighting and stuff, but no, it's commercial fishing, logging. That stuff will mess you up, man.
Oil rigs and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, so I did that, and I came back with this chunk of money.
Nice.
Didn't really know what to do with it, you know, young kid.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, let me get another job. So I worked at as a dishwasher again at it was called Casa de Luz.
Yeah.
It's not there anymore. And then I left there. But I remember they wouldn't give me a certain amount of hours because once you hit a certain amount of hours, they start having to give you benefits.
Right, insurance.
And all that stuff. So they hired just enough people to give everyone not enough hours.
That's pretty atrocious. Companies will do that. It is true. There are, I mean, I don't know the specifics of that situation. I can say that there are rules that kick in based on the number of employees. So one thing that I've seen a lot of companies do is they start doing, oh, you know, you're not an employee. We're going to 1099 you. You're going to be a 1099 contractor. Right. And here's the trick they pulled. When you're a 1099 contractor, you're not an employee. You don't have any rights. You're not even entitled to a minimum wage. You're not entitled to workers' comp protections because you're not an employee. You're 1099. And they get to keep their head count low enough that they can say, oh, I have less than 5 employees. FEHA doesn't apply to me. Oh, I've got less than 15 employees. ADA doesn't apply to me. That's the game we see a lot of employers play. The thing is, when they 1099 someone who's supposed to be an employee, it is bad, bad, bad for them. Not only did they just misclassify you, so your damages are substantial, all the unpaid wages you should have got. Also, they just committed tax evasion, which is like not only a federal offense, but, you know, Al Capone murdered I don't know how many people. U.S. government didn't care. The minute he stiffed him on taxes, that guy was in Alcatraz, so he got arrested so hard. The government will do this until you mess with their money, and then all claims are off.
That's crazy.
And that's where you messed up.
This is the exact moment. Yeah. But that's what happens. And as a dishwasher, you probably ask for more hours, and they might even tell you, oh, we're doing you a favor. You don't want more hours, more money, more taxes. You know, you'll make less. And it's bogus.
No, we knew.
Oh, you knew.
Yeah,
You
we
knew.
knew. We're not dumb. Yeah, we knew what was up. And and also, like, one thing I also didn't like about working for other people was they mess with your schedule. Like, hey, in your schedule changes like every week. They'll have you working at a closing, and all of a sudden they have you working mornings, and they have you switching, and then they'll ask you to come in. And if you say no, they'll give it to someone else. So you have to come in, and you really don't have a life. You're living a work minimum wage. And
It's brutal.
It doesn't make any sense, actually.
You have no,
Work
you
for
have no
yourself.
control over your week too, because you're sitting
Right.
there Sunday night or whenever it is the manager decides to put the schedule out, wondering like, I mean, dude, can I go to a wedding? Can I commit to things?
hard to
Can I
plan.
go to the gym? Can I take care of my body? And everything else in your life almost becomes secondary to this stupid job.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. That's another reason consistent schedules need to be a thing.
Right.
at work.
Yeah. And like my friend right now, he works for a union job.
Nice.
And he was just telling me this morning, actually, he was saying that he thought he had this morning off. And then they hit him up, like, no, you don't have this morning. We need you to come in. So now he has to come in. Can you delve into, like, is that legal? Is that not legal?
Generally, it is. Generally, employers have a pretty wide discretion on when they can schedule you and bring you in. That's why unions are so important. You mentioned your friend was in a union. I don't know what happened there, but the idea is a good union can say, listen, we need a notice requirement before you call us in. Some unions will put it in their contracts like, hey, we need a 24-hour notice. We need a 48-hour cool down period, like if you activate someone for on-call. There's a lot of ways that can go down. But short answer, unfortunately, employers pretty much can jerk you around a little bit on the schedules, which, that's one of the benefits of knowing what rights you do have so you can assert boundaries. It's also the benefits of picking up some kind of side hustle or getting yourself on a path to, if not self-employment, something where you have a little more control. I'm not going to be one of those people who says self-employment's the path for everyone. It's not. There's many good reasons not to be self-employed, but if you're self-employed, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, true. Do you have? We hear a lot of stuff about how these companies are kind of screwing people over and messing things up. What are some examples of companies who are just doing it right?
Doing it right.
Doing it right.
See, that is a trap door, and I'm going to tell you why it's a trap door. Because I can sit here and say, well, Costco has some of the best benefits and highest overall worker satisfaction. Costco, I think, is an example where generally people are happy. But if I were to say that hypothetically, I'll get 1,000 people in my DMs telling me I'm a monster and I'm a corporate shill, and how much did Costco pay you to say that? And don't you know they denied my workers' comp claim? Don't you know how evil they are? So no matter what, no matter how good an employer is, there's always going to be, screw ups, and there's going to be people who aren't happy. But generally speaking, Costco is a pretty positive place from what I hear. Other places, what's really interesting is Amazon is two ends of the spectrum in my experience. I'm personally involved in a class action against them. I've done cases against them quite a bit, and I think they screw things up, and I think some of their warehouse conditions are horrific warehouse conditions. But if you look at the corporate side of things, some of the happiest workers I ever met. So there is something to be said for the kind of jobs you do. The dishwasher at P.F. Chang's is generally not going to be as happy as the GM or someone working in a more management position. So what does that say about employment? I think to an extent, as you move up the chain, you hope that your work conditions become a little easier, a little more beneficial to you. There is something to be said for working your way up from the bottom. But I think there needs to be a minimum threshold of respect and decency people get treated with. Just because you're the intern doesn't mean you deserve to get kicked around.
Right.
Yeah. That's why they call it start from the bottom.
Yeah. Oh, no. And we've all been there. I worked for sub-minimum wages at one point. It was legal because I was a reserve firefighter, and it was a stipend. I was making like $4 an hour at the time. And I worked my way up into a full-time firefighting position. I think there is something to be said for earning your stripes in that way. Now, does that mean that everyone should have to go through that? I don't really agree. I don't think that everyone should have to struggle that hard, but we all have our journey that we have to take.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the journey though. Like I remember when I was young. So like when I graduated high school, I ended up becoming homeless. Right, sleeping on the streets.
Really?
Yeah. We don't have to get into it. It's just I just want to bring that up because when I became homeless, I remember thinking I'm homeless right now because I literally have no skills. I have nothing to offer. I can't get. It was 2008 too, so there was no jobs anyways. So I was like, I have no skills to make money right now. But I was like, but what do I have? I have labor and I need to learn skills. So I used my labor to go up to every business. Hey, can I do something? Clean your windows, wash your dishes, some side money, whatever. And then I went on a journey to acquire skills. And through that journey, I had to do a lot of free work. I mean, I was homeless anyway, so whatever. But I needed the skill acquisition was so important to me. I did a lot of work that would be considered like slave labor, right? I was working construction pretty much for free, like every single day, living on job sites. But I did eventually get to a point where I had enough skills to where I was making more money than my friends with college degrees.
That's incredible for a couple of reasons. First of all, hats off to you for surviving that. When you are at a position where you're unhoused and there's no income and no skills and no assets to back you up, that is a really scary situation. And that's the ultimate failure as a society. We shouldn't let that happen to people because that's not your fault. I mean, how old were you? You're a kid.
19.
How can anyone look at a 19-year-old kid and say, haha, you should have worked harder. Haha, you should have earned a skill. You're a kid, and that's happening to you. So props to you for getting through that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
But the fact that you had to work for free to earn those skills, man, when you were doing the construction jobs, why is there a reason they didn't pay you initially?
So because I could not get hired from any like legit companies.
Yeah.
So no legit, especially here in San Diego at the time.
It's like small
I actually had to
contractors.
fly out to Texas to go work under the table.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then I was the only one of the guys that stayed on the team to do these jobs, live on a job site, use the bathroom outside, take a shower with the garden hose and all that stuff. I was the only one who stayed because everyone else, they're like, I could just go home to my family, whatever.
You didn't
and I
have a home.
was like, I don't have the option. I could technically leave if I wanted to, but then I leave without the acquisition of the skills.
Yeah, and where would you go?
And where would I go anyways? So I would just go back to another shitty situation. I'm already in a shitty situation. Might as well be in a shitty situation, acquiring skills. Where in a year from now, I'll be able to take these skills and use them to maybe position myself to get a real job on a
Sounds
on a
like you
union
were
or
backed
whatever.
against a wall.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the people who I find I really respect who've built really incredible shit and got a good mindset going into it. And by the way, when I say a good mindset, I mean empathetic towards other people, hard on yourself, easy on others, compassionate to people who are struggling. I think that's a strong mindset, and you clearly have that. And I think most of the people I meet who have that kind of mindset, it's because they bottomed out at some point in their life. They had a point where they really lost a lot and felt like, oh my God, I'm starting from nothing here. And it sounds like that was, overall, you're sitting here really, you can reflect and say you learned something and built something from that. Do you think that that kind of suffering, that painful period, is that really necessary?
I think to an extent, I think so, because there's always been throughout time and history an apprentice period.
Yeah.
An apprentice or an intern, or you do have to pay your dues. And unfortunately, paying your dues means life's gonna suck for like a year, 2, 3, whatever. Because at 18 to 22, you ain't really worth anything, unfortunately, and no one really owes you anything. So you really have to acquire some type of skill to be worth something in the working place.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the point that I was going to bring up, is that the amount you make is directly correlated to how valuable your skill is, right? And so it's like, how much are people willing to pay for this skill? And that's why jobs that require little to no skill get almost paid nothing, right? And then you got to work your way up. But you're either acquiring these skills because you're paying to acquire them, whether that's through school or whatever. So, or you're doing stuff for free as an intern or as an apprentice. So either way, to acquire the skills, you got to pay something, whether you're paying your time or you're paying money to get them.
There's an entry fee to almost everything.
Yeah, exactly.
What sucks is you mentioned something really interesting is, you got to pay for the education or work for free. It almost sounds like skill sets that are valuable that can unlock a better, happier life. It's almost like we've locked them behind a paywall in society. And one thing I think of is not just the cost of higher education. People say, oh, just go to college. Like, dude, I can't incur $80,000, $90,000 of debt. I'm living out of a Camry. What are you talking about? And they go, oh, well, clearly you don't want it enough. Like, no, it's just economics. I can't do that, dude. And then there's the other side. We'll go work for free. Well, unpaid internships are a thing, but how do I eat while I'm doing that? I'm certainly not the kind of guy who sees a problem behind every solution, but I think in this conversation, I'm seeing some structural failures that, perhaps a few exceptional people can break through those barriers, and hats off to those people. Awesome. But I would like to see us get to a point where you don't necessarily have to work for free or pay a bunch of money to earn valuable skills.
But that's part of the grind, though, right? Because you have a part-time job, and you're on the side, you're developing your skills.
Yeah.
You know what? One thing I like, I do like that schools are going to teach you your the labor laws, right?
Yeah.
I like that. But what I want to see more than just that is, I would think, I'm like, had I been able to leave high school with a skill, not just a funnel to go to college, which I didn't want to go to, but why couldn't I have left as an apprentice electrician or an apprentice construction guy or a barber or a hairdresser?
And they used to have that.
And they used to have that, but they took it away from the schools. So now your only choice is to go to college because you don't have anything else that you think you can do.
They used to have shop class. They used to.
What happened to shop class? And where did we get this stigma that blue collar is somehow less than white collar office work? It's absolutely not. Do you know how many millionaire plumbers are out there?
Yeah.
I mean, you get out of school with no debt or very limited debt. You get an apprenticeship. You put in the time, and it does suck. You're not earning as much, but you are learning a valuable skill. And then you get a couple of years in there. You can join a union and do that, or you can start your own shop, and boom, you're an entrepreneur.
If you have the plumber skill in addition to some business, you're learning about business, and you can combine those two. Once you develop the skill, you get to a point. Now you're like, okay, now since I have this knowledge, I can grow and expand and scale and hire.
Imagine if high schools had, the shop classes, the skilled trades. How dope would it be? I'm just coming up with this off the top of my head. If those unions would come in and say, hey, we're the electricians union. Hey, we're the plumbers union. Hey, we're carpenters. Hey, we're this or that. And the kids get exposed to all of that. And while they're getting exposed to these trades and seeing, it doesn't have to be for you, but maybe it is. While you're getting exposed to that, also personal finance, investing, balanced checkbook. What does self-employment look like? A lot of people don't even know that there are rules you got to follow even when you're self-employed.
Really?
Well, you still got to pay your taxes, and then there's entity formation. There's a right and a wrong way to be self-employed, and they don't teach you any of that.
Well, they don't even teach you. And I learned this when I got a seller's permit. I learned all this by myself, right? I was like, okay, I'm gonna go get my business name, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't realize you have the county, and then you have the city, and then you have the state, and you have to file.
Don't forget the feds.
Yeah.
Please don't forget the feds.
Oh, and the feds, and the feds.
Give them their money.
They're coming for you.
And you have to file correctly in each one of these county, city,
And you got to keep
state.
them updated. You got to keep your minutes. There's a whole dance you got to do.
Yeah, and I didn't know this. I filed with the city, but didn't file with the county. And then I got into a little bit of trouble right there, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that. No one told me that.
Yeah, it's a maze out there. And I really do feel for business owners. I mean, as a labor lawyer who represents workers, and I hold bad bosses accountable for violating labor rights. By the way, bad bosses is the operative term. If you're genuinely a good person and you screw up a little bit, most people are going to let it slide.
Right.
Yeah.
Typically, the bosses I sue, it's gross sexual harassment, a pattern and practice of wage theft, or they're just the world's biggest asshole, and everyone who's ever worked for them hates their guts. And the minute they commit a technical violation, they're all over them. The labor code can be your best friend or your worst enemy. It can either be a guiding light, like, hey, what kind of work culture can I build to make happy people that are going to invest in my company for me? Or is this just going to be I'm just waiting for a landmine to go off?
Right.
You know what's funny that you say wage theft? I worked for I'm not going to say who the company is at all, but you log in your hours on paper, right? I worked this many hours.
Yeah.
And I've seen the boss, he's like, goes to the coffee shop, he's like, I don't think he worked this many hours. He didn't work 28 hours. I think he only worked like 20 hours. I'm just going to take away.
Taking 8 hours off of that? Holy cow. I mean, a little haircut because I saw you taking a long lunch. Okay, fine. But 8 hours, that's a whole day.
Do you think people do lie on their hours, though?
I think it goes both.
You almost said it goes both ways, and it
Yeah.
absolutely does.
Yeah, it has
I've
to.
seen. Look, I've been on both sides of these suits, and my job is to represent the workers, and I love representing the workers. Generally, they're the less powerful party, and it's nice to go in and be a voice for them. I love what I do. I'm not saying every person who's ever worked a job is an angel, who's innocent, who's never had a dentist appointment that wasn't a dentist appointment.
Right.
I'm not saying no one's ever fudged the time card. But when we look at the balance of power, the employer's remedy is very easy. Oh, you lied about your dentist appointment? Oh, you lied about your time cards? Bye. At will employment. You're gone. But what's the employee's remedy when their money is stolen? It's a little harder for them.
Right.
It's a little harder.
Especially when their back is against the wall. And like we all know, like right now, the economy's not doing good. People are desperate for work. People are desperate for money. Things are getting way, especially here in San Diego, things are so expensive.
We have the weirdest economy right now. The people who started off rich with assets, who I know this has been the best 3 years of their lives.
Yeah.
They're having an absolute money party. They've got watch collections that are just obscene, new cars, new houses. They are the happiest I've ever seen them. And they think that I'm crazy when I say, listen, I represent tens of thousands of workers with our class action and everything. I'm telling you, there is another side of this economy that is struggling really, really hard. And if we keep kicking this part of our economy while they're down, everything's going to bottom out. You want to go to these fancy restaurants, there's no one to wait on you.
Right.
You want a new house, there's no one to build it. You want your car cleaned, there's no one to wash it, because you've created a situation where people are so desperate and jobs don't pay enough to live. They do a couple of things. They give up, which is the saddest thing you can see. They just quit, or they turn to crime. And now you have a crime wave in your community. And I think anyone who's walked around East Village recently knows what that looks like.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like when you don't have a at least reasonably taken care of working class.
How do you explain that whole dichotomy that you just explained, where so it's like we have businesses who are trying to hire employees, right? They need employees, but the employees don't want to work because they can't make enough in order to live in a place that the cost of living is so high.
I know.
It's just like, it's so contradictory. Like, how do you think that happened?
It's really hard to point to any one cause. And I think a lot of people watching this might expect me to say, oh, it's these greedy employers. Not necessarily. It's there's a lot more to it than that. I think we've seen in the past 20 years as an elder millennial, what I've observed is a steady almost decay of the quality of life for a working class person. You know, I remember when I was in elementary school, I had teachers who owned homes in my community. That's impossible now. Unless you have a trust fund or wealthy parents, it's just not happening. So I think what has happened is system-wide structural failures. We do not have enough housing for people. We do not have enough affordable housing. All the new builds we see are luxury this, luxury that, because, hey, I don't blame the developer. That's your highest margin.
Right.
We as a society, our state, our government needs to create a system where there is some incentive to create affordable housing. And the incentives just aren't there. They make you jump through a million hoops to build it, and there's not really a lot of money at the end of it. The juice isn't worth the squeeze for these developers. So I think there needs to be a point where there needs to be a stronger safety net, and there need to be stronger incentives for businesses to provide affordable services. Because now everyone's just trying to go premium this, premium that, because that's where the money is.
Exactly. I mean, we relate to that. I think the biggest thing is how difficult it is to be a small business in California.
It's ruthless.
Right? And it's like, that's the root of it all. Not the big, like the small businesses, which is like the heart and soul of it, right? Because if people don't want to start small businesses, that's their family, that's their income, they can hire people, but it's so hard to operate, so expensive, and it's like when you have that on a mass scale, it's going to affect so many other people.
The barriers to entry that we've thrown up, especially over the past couple of decades, are obscene. You know, I think what made our country great, look, we've never been perfect. No country is. We're trying. But I think the spirit of America that was so great was this idea that you could be a poor farmer from Ireland and move your family over here and open up a business. You can open up a woodworking shop or something and provide a living for your family. And if you were good at what you did, maybe you expand and you grow, and it feeds into the local economy. It feeds you. It keeps you off crime. It keeps you off the streets, and you're contributing and hiring people. And I think we've really lost sight of that. I mean, what's the average cost to start a business in San Diego? I have no idea, but I'm telling you, a poor immigrant family with $2 to their name, probably not able to do it.
Right. But it forces, like you said, it forces the small business to have to charge a premium.
Yeah.
It's like you said, everybody's premium now. Everybody's premium, and it's like, because if we don't charge a premium, we can't make any money.
It's a cost of living death spiral. It's a death spiral that we're in. And that's exactly it. It's like, we got to ratchet up our prices so that we can make some kind of profit.
Right.
In the meantime, our own employees can't buy our product. You know, it's
literally.
It's fine. Look, do I expect everyone who works at BMW to be able to own a BMW? No. But, you know, if you work at McDonald's, you know, you should be able to afford the meals there reasonably. And we're seeing those prices go up and up and up. And I think what's happened is so many people got caught up in the blame game. They really want to make sure, oh, well, it was the Republicans who did this. Don't you know it was the Democrats who did that? Oh, it's Bidenomics at work. It's not. It's all of us, and there's structural failures that have built up over years and years and years. And Republicans have very little to do with it. Biden's got nothing to do with it. Trump's got nothing to do with it. It's this cost of living death spiral that I think we're in.
Yeah.
And it's hard, too, because, like, you have minimum wage workers they want more minimum wage. Like, for example, you remember the Carl's Jr., the $6 burger? That was a big thing. Why go to a restaurant for a burger $6? Come here, you get a meal for just under $6.
Can we talk about what a dumb name the $6 burger was, by the way? Hey, why'd you call it a $6 burger? Is it $6? No, it's not $6. That's why we called it that.
No, exactly. Well, they named it a $6 burger because if you went to a restaurant, it was $6. But
Right,
you get
but
the
it's
same
cheaper
burger
there.
from Carl's Jr.
Talk about a time capsule. That
Right?
was. Can
Yeah.
you imagine going into a restaurant getting sick? I'm going to want to see their health inspection at that point. Like, did you guys pass? Let me see that kitchen.
It's the $15 burger now, by the way.
So-
It's the $15 burger.
minimum.
Yeah. So, but it was like, it was the $6 burger, like when minimum wage was, I don't remember what it was, but like, but now it's like, okay, minimum wage is $20. Well, the burger is like $15 now. So like, who's really winning? Like, it's like, you're making more money, but everything's going up. And
Right.
It's this weird chase that's happening between the cost of living and the wages. And the best idea that some of our lawmakers have come up with, I don't know if you guys are aware, the fast food workers unions have won a pretty substantial new rule that'll take effect April 1st, 2024. Fast food workers at national fast service brands, that's brands with more than 60 nationwide locations, minimum wage is going to be $20 an hour starting then. Now, that is gotten mixed reception from people. On the workers' rights side, we're stoked. Hey, good. Maybe this will be enough for people to live in their communities. And we know that these very large brands are profitable, and take a haircut on your margins, pretty please. We'll see if that happens. Right. But then on the other side, people are saying, well, yeah, you brought up their wages, but that doesn't address the underlying cost of the product, and these corporations are not going to want to take a hit on their margins, so they'll just raise the price. So you've got this forever chase where the wages are trying to catch up. Now, for lawmakers, it's a really tricky situation because they're like, well, this is the most direct way we can try to help people, or try to do something. We raised the minimum wage, yay, but we didn't address why is the food cost so expensive? What's happening to the cost to truck the lettuce from the valley to your store? What's it costing to raise the cattle and bring them over here? What kind of issues are stopping restaurants from opening up in new locations? How much is the rent at these locations? I think those are the sort of systemic issues that they aren't as sexy. They don't make headlines the way that, oh, hey, I'm the best governor in the world. I signed a minimum wage increase, which we should have regular minimum wage increases. We should. I don't know if it's going to fix everything. I don't want to sound negative. I suspect it won't.
And I feel like the only people that this hurts is the small businesses who can't afford it. And also it hurts the employees who fight for it, because what happens is you have these big corporations, right? They have a lot of money. They have a lot of venture capital. They have investors. There's a lot of money in these big fast food chains. What they're going to start doing is spending that money on building robots.
That's something that's been brought up, and that we are seeing more kiosks and automation at these places, which, I think I'm not particularly threatened by that, so long as we have means for other employment for people. I don't think that, we can celebrate human progress and human technology if we have the same jobs people are doing consistently. I mean, how exciting has the past 100 years been? The average person is not a subsistence farmer anymore. And that was most people for a long time. So when you say, oh, we can't get rid of these farming jobs, what will people do? Well, we got into tech and we got into other jobs that didn't exist. So I'm okay with that, so long as we've got some kind of plan that says, hey, all right, you do not work the griddle anymore. We got a machine for that, but we need kiosk technicians. We need someone who can go to all these locations, keep those robots running, something of that nature. So, and also, I don't think it's going to be an overnight thing. I don't think it's like, hey, the minimum wage went up to $20 an hour for these group of people, so suddenly it's all robots. Candidly, the margins at these restaurants are not as big as a lot of people think. They work on pretty small margins. More likely you're going to see is just cost increases.
Right. So it's going to apply also to like every other city where the cost of everything is way lower. Like they're going to get paid $20 an hour in Alabama. And
it's a state. This is state specific.
Just in the state.
$20 an hour in Alabama. You're a prince.
Exactly.
It's all relative now. And then some people want to point and say, well, it's because California has so many failed policies. That's why your cost of living is so high. I think that's a really simplistic approach. I think that there's been a long march over time that's brought us here. And there's no one person you can blame. There's no one thing you can blame. But I think we all need to accept that whoever's fault it is irrelevant. We need to start making some changes. We need to create some sort of education for people so that they can get skills. We got to create some kind of financial literacy for people so that they aren't just bouncing paycheck to paycheck. Because the more well off we get that entry level tier for people, the less crime we have, the more consumer demand we have for things. That's the other thing people forget. Tax cuts for corporations, pulling regulations, that doesn't create jobs.
Right.
Just making it cheaper to operate does not create jobs. If a corporation suddenly has a 20% tax cut, that doesn't tell them, oh, we should go hire some more people, because their demand hasn't changed. Why would a tax cut motivate them to hire anybody? That doesn't make sense. But if the working class or consumer class of Americans suddenly has more money, they're buying more TVs, they're going out to eat more, they're driving more, they're going on vacation more. Well, now we have more demand, and now we have more of a reason to hire more people to meet that demand. So I think that's the other thing that we've gotten wrong, this sort of trickle-down economics perspective. And I rant against it on my page all the time. I say wealth doesn't trickle down, it flows up. You've got to take care of that fundamental base of your economy. The people who wake up every day and go to work and build stuff, they need to have spending money, because that's your consumer class American, and that's good for everyone. That's good. If I was the CEO of Target, if I was the CEO of Louis Vuitton, I'd be sitting here like, we need something for working class people right now, because the more money they have, the more money I make. It's good for everybody.
Right.
I agree.
And it has to be a fundamental like shift though, right? It can't be just like a stimulus check. Oh, I got like $1,200. Cool. Now I can go spend it and it's gone. It didn't change anything about what my monthly paycheck is.
Yeah.
Right. And
Oh, you nailed it.
Yeah. So it didn't change anything about what the rest of my year is going to look like. It just changed that day that I went and spent that money. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like I think it goes all the way back to what you said. It's like the business owner, they need lower rent. They need lower operating costs. They need their product needs to be cheaper to create, like the cost of food or whatever it is. Like on every level, we need to kind of try to identify why is it so expensive to operate.
Yes, we've got to protect the people operating, but we got to protect their costs. And I want to make it very clear to anyone listening. I am pro entrepreneur. I'm pro small business. Right. My life's work is I represent working class Americans, but I care about you, because quite candidly, a thriving business is less likely to break the law. A lot of times wage theft is out of desperation. A lot of times it's out of greed and spite and hubris. Sometimes it's out of desperation. But I think you're right, and I think there's two sides that need to work. We need to find ways to lower costs of doing business. Absolutely. We need to incentivize people doing business and taking a risk on it. And then we also need to make sure that there is at least a minimum standard of living for the working class people. Because remember, just because we made it cheaper to operate doesn't mean we created more demand, doesn't mean we created more jobs. We got to increase demand. So the $1,200 one-time check, I mean, it might make for a nice quarter for a company. Maybe someone will invest it. I don't see why someone living in a studio apartment would open up a Charles Schwab account just because they got one check for $1,200. They're going to fix their car or maybe splurge on a luxury item, because God knows they don't really have any. Right. And finally, they have a chance to have something, and their situation's not going to change much. This is why one of my more controversial opinions I've shared is I'm a big fan of UBI, Universal Basic Income. Universal basic income. I'm a fan. I really am, because, and for those who don't know, universal basic income, it's controversial, and there's reasons it is, but it's a policy where a state says, hey, no matter what you're doing, you get some money on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis, and it's strings-free cash. There's no strings attached. You just take this. It needs to be a low amount. I've seen people say things like, oh, it should be $2,000 a month. And I, just out of curiosity, I crunched some numbers. Our state's entire revenue from taxes cannot sustain that. That's insane. There's no way to do it. It needs to be small. Small is the only way you got to do it. And I know people don't like that. They'll get mad. They're saying, well, you're not advocating hard enough. It's like, well, I'd rather have people getting $150, $200 a month than zero. Because with that $150, $200 enough, you just took a lot of pressure off someone who can barely fill their gas tank. You just took a lot of pressure off someone who can't get groceries. And you made it that much less likely that they're going to give up. And what does give up look like? Yeah, it's supplemental income. That's the thing I try to tell people. It's like, this doesn't mean, oh, suddenly people aren't going to work anymore. This means people work, but you're going to have better, happier, more motivated people, more upward mobility, and less crime. Because now people aren't saying, dude, I haven't had red meat in forever. I'm so sick of being hungry. This is bullshit. I'm just going to swipe this from the grocery store. Fuck these corporations. You have less of that when people have a little more disposable income. That's just a small example.
Well, but what about this? What about instead of universal income, what if we did, because tax cuts, you paid less in state tax, and it'll probably add up to around that, if not more, and that'll be more incentive to work.
You mean more like less deductions on your W-2?
Less deductions. So
I'm a
you're
fan of
taking
that.
home more
Yeah.
money.
That's-
Instead of
yeah.
just giving people money,
Right.
how about we incentivize you? Like, why doesn't the state just create incentives? Like, hey, we want, if you do this, that if you work in this industry, or if you work in fast food, or wherever we need these working class people, and if you do this, we'll cut your taxes.
I like tax cuts for working class people.
Yeah.
That's who needs it.
It's my opinion that you shouldn't be paying any taxes at all up until the first, I don't know what salary range we'd look at. It would vary by state, so I wouldn't commit to a number, but I'd say there should be a point where you're not paying any.
You should
You know.
if you make less than $50,000, you shouldn't pay no tax. In my
Yeah.
opinion.
Warren Buffett once famously said that he pays less taxes than his housekeeper.
Yes.
Right.
And it got attention for the right reasons. It's outrageous when you hear it. Like, you have more than you could spend in 1,000 lifetimes, living lavishly, by the way, not even being frugal, and yet someone who can barely keep food on the table is paying more taxes than you. That's not fair. The inventors of democracy, the ancient Athenians, paying taxes was a status symbol back then. Back then, it was an honor. It was like you would march and show, yes, I am Publius Gnaeus Maximus, whatever the hell their names were back then. And I have contributed to our great city, so many talents of gold. I've contributed 100 pounds of silver, and I've built this public market for us, and I built this road. And it was a form of pride to contribute to the city. And it was like personal branding for people almost.
Right.
Now it's become a game of who can pay less taxes. We've seen many billionaires famously come out and brag about how they don't pay taxes because they're so smart. And it's become a game to contribute as little as possible. Meanwhile, working class people who do not have the resources, they don't have the education, they don't have accountants, they don't have lawyers.
They don't have the write-offs.
They got nothing, and they're taking proportionately a much larger tax burden. So Jeremiah, you nailed it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the working class is shouldering most of the civic responsibility.
Yeah. Like, imagine being a construction worker, abusing your body to build the city, right? And I did construction, and you've done construction. You know how abusive it is.
I got a
to your
back
body.
X-ray to prove it.
Yeah.
I go to my buddy and so, yeah.
I remember getting home and just like laying down, all my joints just going.
Yeah.
And
Oh, the Wawas.
yeah, the
That's what I
Wawas.
call 'em. Yeah.
And so you're abusing your body to build the city, but yet when you get your paycheck, you're like, they took that much in taxes?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
I think
Yeah.
to that point of this, like, not paying taxes until a certain income would work so well, because if you think about in the past, like when you were working a working class job, it was very stable, right? And you were able to buy a house, and you were able to live a great like middle class life, right? And then we're seeing the middle class kind of shrink over time because of the cost of living and because of all these different things. But I feel like an argument somebody might have, well, it's like, oh, well, if they don't pay any taxes, then they're not going to be motivated to do this or motivated to do that or try to continue to make money. But it would create this extremely stable class of people who are always putting money back into the economy.
100%.
And always feeding the economy on a consistent basis, not struggling, continuing demand in a bunch of different
You nailed
industries.
it. A strong consumer economy creates a strong tax base. So don't forget, if you're not getting hit on your W-2, because this is what I want to protect people from. If you're not getting clobbered on those W-2s, your pay stubs, the withdrawals,
Yeah.
you're going to have more spending money. And don't
Right.
forget, we tax people on almost everything they do.
Multiple times.
Everything you have ever bought got taxed multiple times.
Yeah.
And what sucks about consumer taxes is they're regressive taxes, meaning, it's the heaviest burden falls on the consumer. Gasoline is a great example in California. It's over $1 a gallon in taxes you're paying. It's craziness. And they keep saying, oh, we need to raise more tax revenue. Let's do a per mile tax. There's been all kinds of horrible ideas there. And it's like, you are clobbering the wrong people.
Yeah.
It's
You are
backwards.
Yeah.
And we got to create a system where, I don't know how we do it. I don't know how we get a culture shift here. Corporations do need to pay a little bit more taxes. I think there comes a point where it came out just this week, Microsoft accidentally forgot to pay $28 billion in taxes in the past 12 years. It's a new report.
Oh, wow.
And that's just a report. I'm sure we'll get more information there. I intend to do a video about it when we get more details, but that's just one example. Stop trying to scrape 2 cents a mile out of, parents just taking their kids to school and trying to make a living. Microsoft is fine. They're fine. They can pay a little more taxes. Oh, but what about jobs? If there's more consumer demand, they will hire people. It's going to be fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think because I was thinking like, what if like no taxes on minimum wage workers?
I love that.
Like if you're making $10, $15, $20 an hour and half of that is getting taxed, state tax, federal tax, consumer tax, then you're making dog shit. So
I think dog shit is the legal term, actually.
But what I realized is the reason why you have to pay taxes on your minimum wage. The reason why big corporations like Microsoft don't have to pay so little taxes is because they do pay taxes. They pay taxes by hiring you, and then you pay taxes, and the taxes you paid from the job that they created is the reason why they don't have to pay taxes.
There's a lot to it, and also to be fair, employers pay payroll tax.
Right.
We're all getting taxed into oblivion over here. It's like everyone's got
so taxing.
Did you guys paid the podcast tax, right? Did you guys get that? Did we get the check in the mail? But no, you're absolutely right. Having something where someone at that level doesn't pay any taxes, and then don't forget that they do get taxed all the time. Anytime they buy anything, there's a sales tax or there's something associated with that. Another reason I like the idea of some kind of supplemental income for that person. It kind of takes the sting out of it and makes it a little easier, because desperate citizens are not necessarily going to be productive citizens. And it's not their fault. You put them into a corner, you gave them no options, and you act shocked that they broke into a car. What'd you think was going to happen?
It seems like there's a few different ways to kind of almost do the same thing in this scenario. So there is a solution, guys. Whoever out there watching this in, up there on the Capitol Hill, you know what I'm saying? You want to keep going? Go ahead.
Well, I want to ask a question.
Yeah.
real
Yeah,
quick
go ahead.
Because I want to segue this conversation
we'll
to
shift
something
gears.
else.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I'm passionate about that stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's been great. It's been great.
Well, I wanted to know because Starbucks there was a big thing with Starbucks union.
Something like 217 National Labor Relations Board violations and counting. They got in a lot of trouble.
Exactly. and I had a question for you. Is I've always heard from everyone who worked at Starbucks. I went to Starbucks every day. I used to live across the street from one. Everyone loved working at Starbucks. They paid for your school. Everyone was happy there. And then when they got sued and I heard all this, I was like, oh, that's crazy, because everyone I met who worked at Starbucks loved it. They got an education, this and that. They seem to be one of the good big employers, right? But then, so what was the big reason why all this happened?
Excellent question. So before I want to preface it, remember earlier you asked me what are some of the employers that get it right, and I was really reluctant. I threw Costco out there, and I'm sure I'll get heat for it. The reason is anecdotal evidence is really weak evidence. It's right up there with saying, I've never seen a bobcat, therefore bobcats don't exist.
Right.
I mean, you say everyone that you met at Starbucks is super happy, but how many people reasonably do you think you talked to? 20, 30? Out of thousands and thousands of employees. And then also it's regional. It could just be the case that the San Diego Starbucks people are just on it. And then you go to Wichita and it's a hellscape. You just don't know. So there's wider systems that happen there. And I always tell employers, if you don't want a union to sprout up in your company, just don't give them a reason to unionize. People typically don't do that unless they feel pressured. So what did they get in trouble for? You have a right to engage in concerted activities with your coworkers for mutual welfare and protection. You have a right to discuss wages, that's federal law. You have a right to talk about unions as long as it's not disruptive. You can't be, picketing on shift, behind the that's not allowed. Okay? But
have an Starbucks thing.
Yeah, but you can talk about it in the break room. That's protected. You can talk about it outside work. If you're allowed to have discussions of non-work related things, if you're allowed to be making your coffee and say, hey man, how was the weekend? Weekend was good. If you're allowed to do that, you're allowed to talk about unions. Hey, union meeting tonight, you coming? Oh, okay, cool. That's allowed. What Starbucks did is they engaged in a massive organized retaliatory campaign. They shut down entire offices. If there was talk of unions, they shut down locations. They fired people, said it was poor performance, and really they were fine. They just handed out a union pin or something like that. And they also did things, I've seen a lot of this, they would get people dressed up like this to come in and just watch. They'd have meetings with their attorneys just to scare them, like, ooh, we have attorneys, watch out. And that harassment, intimidation, and wrongful termination campaign is what got them in trouble.
Interesting. So then what's the damage looking like?
Millions.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple of ways that gets enforced. The National Labor Relations Board can enforce it. They have the power to impose, statutory, like, financial damages. They can go for, they can order changes. They can order you to show proof that you've made changes. They can order you, they can order you to print out an apology and read it to the employee. They can order you to have a town hall and say you're sorry for union busting. They can make you change your business in a lot of ways. That's one side of the equation. Then you have the Department of Labor you got to watch out for, or the attorneys general. They can enforce actions against you. And then there's the private attorneys like me, organizing class actions or representing individually fired attorneys. So it can spiral into a lot of headaches if you're breaking those rules. Yeah.
Crazy. All right. Enough about you guys. Let's talk about this man right here.
Okay. Changing gears. Let's go.
All right. So you're a firefighter.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And then you stopped being a firefighter. You were in your lost days, as you said.
There was a lost period between fire and law.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Take us from the lost period to becoming a lawyer.
Oh, man. And this is for anyone listening here. You're going to have points in your life where you feel like you screwed up big time. You feel like maybe you had an opportunity and you blew it, or you did irreparable damage to your life. That's what I felt like I did in those lost years. There was a period where I had left the fire department. I had made the choice that I didn't want to be a firefighter for the next 20, 30 years of my life. I looked at that trajectory and said, that's not the life I want. I love fighting fire. I miss it, but that's not the life I want. So I quit and tried to go to law school. I applied to 13 schools. I got into zero.
Not even Thomas Jefferson?
Dude, no one. I was good enough for no. Don't ask me why. Maybe I screwed up my applications. I don't know. Right. I don't know what happened, but I didn't get in anywhere.
Like, this guy spelled his name wrong. How
maybe
did you let him in?
It probably didn't help that I had dropped out of undergrad to go be a firefighter. And apparently, when you drop out of school, you're supposed to, like, tell somebody. I just left.
Right.
And that weird thing, when you don't show up to final exams, you get Fs.
Yeah.
Right. So it looks like you failed.
I had transcript with 5 Fs on it.
Wow.
Not great, and an academic probation on there. So then I went back and finished it. My GPA was pretty dismal because of that, and my record was just horrible. It was like, where'd you get all these Fs? And no one wanted to hear the explanation. We got people coming from UCLA who are valedictorians. Why would we even look at you? But it shattered my self-confidence. I thought I really screwed up. I had a dream job, and because I didn't appreciate what I had, I threw it away, and now I'm driving for Uber. I'm working a little office job I hate that doesn't pay enough, so I'm working for Uber. On weekends, I'm doing construction. This sucks. I had to move back in with my parents. I ran out of money. Even with those jobs, even then, the cost of living in this county was starting to really get away from people, and no matter how hard I worked, it felt like I was falling behind. And as my finances fell apart and as my job prospects fell apart, I started losing friends too, because people don't want to admit this, but friendships, they do cost money sometimes. It's really great when you have people who don't cost money, but
it's like even paying for you, Ryan.
It's you start looking for sugar friends. I'll bring the jokes, you bring the beers. Good, but no, it was tough. So those lost years were tough, and I did try something different. I wrote a book. It was just a fiction, Emperor of Vegas, for fun. That's all it was. I think that book might have changed everything because I self-published it. But when I applied to schools, I only applied to one. I applied to Cal Western. I got in on a 75% scholarship.
Nice.
I was like, I'll take that.
Because of the book?
I think so. It was the only thing that had changed. On paper, I was less qualified because I had been out of school and I had worked a bunch of BS jobs and had no experience, but I did something. Self-published, not even real. I just did my own thing. But I think they just saw that and said, hey, there's some creativity, there's some initiative, let's give the kid a shot. And then I started law school, and wow, it was hard, but life got instantly better because when I got into law school for the first time, I felt like I was marching towards a goal that made sense. There was a light at the end of the tunnel. It was getting my law degree. I was like, this is hard, but all pain is endurable if it has purpose. There's a purpose to this pain. Before, I was like, I'm just broken. I'm going nowhere. That aimlessness is what hurts so bad. But law school is where things really turned around.
Yeah, absolutely. So law school, you graduated. Woo woo. Oh wait, summa cum. What was it?
No, magna cum laude.
Magna
But
cum laude?
it doesn't matter. I said it doesn't matter.
I always forget. Does that mean like number 2?
No, I
what
was
does it mean?
I think I was like 8 or 9.
Okay.
Don't hold me to that.
Yeah, yeah.
I was in the top 10%.
Okay.
I mean, on paper, I was a pretty good student, and it's because I was really motivated when I went there.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's another reason why your story really resonated with me, Jeremiah, because when you have that struggle behind you, you really appreciate opportunities. I mean, someone who's struggled their whole life, you give them a little bit of a chance and they attack it because they know how important that chance is. Someone who's lived a cush life forever, not saying it's no one's fault what they're born with, but the stakes may not really resonate to them. They may not realize what a big opportunity law school is. I attacked it. I did law review. I was in the student government. I interned for judges. I did everything I could to extract as much knowledge from that as I could. And thank God I did, because when I left, I started my law firm right out away.
Oh, nice.
Right away, I opened up my doors. Centurion Trial Attorneys. The day I got that thing, it was like, boom! I'm in business. I don't have any clients. I don't have any money. I've just made a mistake.
Now what?
It's like, oh, I made a mistake.
All right, so how'd you get your first client?
First client. So this is the importance of networking, I think. And networking, by the way, it's not going to some BS cocktail hour at some pretentious restaurant handing people your business card. It's everyday interactions. It's taking a sincere interest in people. When I was in law school, to make some extra money, I tutored. And I did these large group tutoring sessions. I would do lectures on contract law, criminal law, just as a tutor. One of my students had a family member who had an employment-related dispute, and she just thought, hey, Ryan was always very helpful. I trust Ryan. He's got his firm. I'll go to him. That was my first client right there. And that gave me enough money to limp along a couple of months. I got 1 or 2 other clients, really small cases. I made a couple $1,000 on them tops. But in the meantime, I was like, well, I can't just do referral based. I've been a lawyer for 5 minutes and I don't really know that many people. So how do I get my name out there? Couldn't afford regular advertising. I called SEO people. They were like, oh yeah, it's $10,000 a month. I was like, oh, that's cool. Hey, I'm getting another call. Bye. So I was like, what the hell do I do? And I realized, well, social media is free. I've got 300 or 400 followers. Maybe one of them needs something. So I started making videos.
What year is this?
2021 is when I started the Instagram social
Okay.
media stuff. So we're sitting here in 2023.
Yeah.
You can see, and it's funny, you look at it on a calendar and you're like, this is an overnight success. This is incredible. It felt like it took a long time. It doesn't feel overnight when you're doing it. I made some videos and it was really funny. This is the importance of just trying shit, even if you're not totally confident in it. My videos were garbage. I mic'd up, I wrote these scripts, I got a little camera, and I filmed like 3-minute long videos about the labor code. No views. My mom would like comment, "You're doing great, honey." Awesome. Thanks, Mom. Great. No one cared. But then when I tried something, my buddy, Tommy Kirker, he's Attorney Tom on YouTube, really successful guy, mentor to me. I respect the hell out of you, Tommy, if you happen to be listening to this. He said, dude, try TikTok. It's this new thing. I was like, okay. I went to those old videos and I just cut out little 10 and 20-second snippets of the juiciest, best information. And I threw some goofy music on them, and I just threw them on TikTok, forgot about them. Came back a week later, and 4 of the 6 had gone viral.
Yeah.
I do this because back then 100,000 views was viral to me. I was like,
Yeah.
what the hell? And all these people are commenting saying, what's your firm number? How do I get in touch? I'm having this exact problem. How do I reach you? I was like, oh my God. And that's when I started really committing. And I did 3 to 5 short videos a day, mostly on TikTok, every day for like 2 or 3 months. And I went from, I shot up to like 8,000 followers, then 8,000 to 150K. And then there was this tear from like 150K to 1.8 million.
Wow.
We just kept that up. And I think it was a year later, I got invited to be on Dr. Phil. News organizations saw me as an expert and started asking me for my opinion on different workers' rights things. Hey, we had a little conversation about workers' rights today.
Yeah, we sure did.
The word is out that I'm an expert in this field, but no one knows that just because you quietly work in your office.
Right.
If you don't tell people, hey, I think about like one thing all day, every day, and I'm really good at it. If you need a guy to answer questions on that one thing, labor law, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
You got to tell people about it.
Absolutely.
And the rest is history. We broke into YouTube earlier this year. We started our own podcast, Working Class, and fundamentally our mission hasn't changed. Our mission is education first. We try to educate our clients. I get a lot of calls from people who say, I've been a fan for 3-4 years. it's not possible. But that's what they say, right. Because they feel like you've been part of their life forever.
Yeah.
It's been not that long, but I've been following you 3 or 4 years. I never thought I need you, but I got a problem today and I need help. And you're the only guy I trust, which is really cool. A lot of attorneys I talk to, they say they struggle with clients shopping around and they have to be first to answer the phone. They need to have the best package. We really got to be tight on it. I can afford to take my time evaluating cases. I don't have to rush to sign people. I can investigate because most of the people who come to me, they trust me. They've followed me for a long time, and they know that I'm looking out for them. And that's the other thing people see in the content. They know that I'm a true believer. They know I'm not just some blood-sucking attorney who's just trying to extract fees from everyone. I mean, that's how I make my living. I get fees. But I really genuinely care about the practice area I'm in. I really genuinely care about working people, and I want their lives to be better. And people sense the authenticity.
Yeah,
So
that's all I was going to say, is that comes through, that shines through the authenticity.
Yeah, I yelled at you guys with my socialist ideas for It's like, we noticed, bro. Jesus.
But there was actually some balance to what you were saying, though. Like
There was.
it was
and I think that's why we kind of agreed.
You had like these socialist ideas, but then there was like the capitalist ideas in there as well. It was pretty balanced. You're really balanced.
Yeah, you can't jerk the steering wheel one way or another 100%. That'll throw you off the road. You got to keep a steady hand. And that's why I'll never say I'm a capitalist or I'm a socialist. If you start adding an ist at the end of everything you're doing, you've just locked yourself into a very narrow toolbox.
Right.
Correct.
And some problems, the tools you need to fix them aren't in that box.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I consider myself a capitalist, right? Yeah. But then I'm like, but I do see these problems that come with that as well. I can see a little bit of the socialist side. Like, there's a balance right there. You can't just be 100% this or 100%
And people
that.
forget, I'm a business owner, an employer, an entrepreneur too. I represent workers, but I truly understand what small businesses are dealing with. I've got 10 employees right now, and it's hard. It's a big responsibility. If you're doing it right, it's hard at least. Because you gotta remember, these people have trusted their career path to you. They're trusting you to not only give them a decent income and a decent work environment, but also career opportunities. You got to accept that not everyone who works with you is going to work with you forever. They're going to get skills and move on. And the more you try to lock them in and gatekeep and be like, no, I want you here working under me in this role forever, they're going to resent you. Right? And they're going to leave and they're not going to give you a heads up.
Right. Like the guys we have working for us, I tell them, like, we're on your team. We want what's best for you. If you ever get a better opportunity, we support it. Like, we're not here to gatekeep you or tie you down here. We're happy that you want to work for us. Right. You don't have to work for us if you don't. If you're not happy, let us know. We'll try to fix it. So we're all about building the culture at this business. Like, we even have a little spin the wheel, what I mean?
That's fun. Like, what is up with that spin the wheel?
You want to spin?
You want to spin it?
Yeah, I want to spin it.
We do this every week.
So if it lands on money, you owe us.
No. Oh, what? No, so if you land on money, we give you money. But if you land on physical activity, you have to do either push-ups or
What is this
squats.
one?
Spin again.
Spin again. Okay, here we go. All right, on. You do this with your employees too?
Yeah.
Oh, that's tight.
Is that illegal?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
You're fine.
Spin again.
All right, here we go. Spin again. You should have a CEO for a day.
Right.
There you go. Thank God your problem's down.
All right. Break out the Venmo.
We feel bad. We have one girl, and she's only ever landed on physical activities.
Squats or push-ups.
She's like, I hate the wheel.
That's so funny. That's so funny. But you're fit. Look at you. You look great. That's great. That's fun. So this is something you instituted just as a cultural thing. It's that smart. Having a little culture really matters. Showing you give a shit and have some fun.
Yeah,
exactly.
That matters.
Well, it's like we want you to be happy working with us. You're not working for us. You're working with us.
Right.
We couldn't do this without you guys. So,
especially in our industry, which is very creative, creative-based thing, right? And so we're working with creative people they're not pencil pushing, not just doing numbers all day. You know what I'm saying? They need time to create, and they need to be in feel a certain way to create. And if they feel boxed in or constricted, the product's not going to be as good.
Oh, 100%.
Right? And so it's like we're dependent on delivering this high-quality, awesome, amazing-looking product all the time. we need our people to feel.
You got to
that
give
way
them
at the same
space to
time.
create.
Yeah.
Now,
exactly.
are there times where putting some pressure on them helps? I mean,
Absolutely.
nothing motivates like a deadline.
So,
Yeah.
so we have deadlines.
And it's balanced.
And I always wish that the deadline would be like, I always want them to like deliver the product before the deadline.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to shorten this deadline because I want you. But it's honestly a balance because when we got a heavy influx of clientele 1 month, and we burned everyone out.
Really?
And they're like, hey, we're gonna move on and stuff. And I was like,
You got to watch for burnout,
Yeah.
dude. 'Cause
Yeah.
the irony is you probably made a lot of money that month, and it was probably good for a lot of people. But when someone's burnt out, money isn't a motivator anymore.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
you really got to watch that. And it's another reason I'm really grateful for my experience in fire. I think it made me a better manager because I remember the best captains were watching the energy and stamina levels of their firefighters. Because we would go out in the hills and work these big wildfires, and you're very far away from any sort of civilization or niceties. You're just running on really crappy MREs and food that you brought with you. It's brutal on your body. And the worst captains were the slave driver types. Like, we need to build this line, and we're tough, we're macho, no complaining, no breaks, blah, blah, blah. Those guys are idiots. The ones who got the most from their team for the longest were the ones who are like, okay, we're going to go hard. Give me an hour. We're going hard. Give me an hour. And after that, we're going to take 20 minutes. We're going to get in the shade. We're going to cool off, and then you're going to give me another hour.
Right.
Those people get more done.
yeah.
Yeah, it's about longevity.
Yes,
Exactly.
you've got to protect your team. If you're in a leadership potential, you got to recognize it's like you wouldn't run your car on 8,000 RPM 24 hours a day.
No, right.
That's insane.
Yeah.
You're going to rest it a bit. And you
Yeah.
need, I'm not saying humans are machines, but you just got to look at the energy that your team's expending and you got to watch it.
Like for instance, like me, I could get here in the morning and I don't mind not getting home till like late night. It doesn't bother me, but I have to remember this is also my business. So I take a different level of pride with it. I can't expect somebody to feel the same way. And I'm sort of in the belief, I feel like 6 hours is like the perfect workday for an employee.
It is for a lot of people. There's a lot of research that shows now, and I can't cite to it. I don't know where this came from, but the research that I saw, I think it was in Harvard Business Review. I don't know what study they cited to, though. They were saying that 4 hours of focused work is really the optimal thing you can get from people. 4 hours of focused work. Now, is a 4-hour workday really realistic? I don't think so. But I think the idea is that if you have employees there for an 8-hour workday, you shouldn't be expecting maximum productivity the whole 8-hour day. You should not fear ebbs and flows and the relative energy throughout the day. One mistake I see a lot of employers make is if they see employees sort of taking it easy a bit, they're chatting, something like that, they freak out and say, get back to your desk, this is a business, you know. And
Take away the chairs.
Yeah, exactly. Take away the chairs. Now, you've lost your light privileges. There is a balance. You know, you don't want people completely slacking off, but you should allow for a little bit of ebb and flow in the day, and that's a
That's why I
mistake some
think
people make.
some companies have been really successful at doing sprints.
Yes.
Yeah, and like they time blocking. It's like, all right, guys, about to go for a 30-minute sprint or a 1-hour sprint. Like everybody, 3, 2, 1, beep, and then it's like, and then if you feel really concentrated, you feel like because you know. At the end of this hour, I'm gonna be able to chill. So let's get as
100%.
much done as we can right now. Boom, 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 boom. It's highly productive.
Those were the
work.
best fire captains we had. I know you're tired. I know we've been out here. I know it sucks. Give me an hour. Give me an hour. We're going to cut line for an hour, and then we're going to take some time and cool down. Can we do that, guys? Good. Go. You know, it's how you motivate people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Dang, I forgot what I was gonna say. I'm so sorry.
Man.
But so,
I got a question.
go ahead. Good, thank you.
So what is content creation look like for you now at this stage?
It has evolved significantly. I'm glad you asked that question because I know there's a lot of lawyers who look at the Attorney Ryan brand and want to emulate it, and that's fine with me. It's cool, but don't compare your chapter 1 to my chapter 15.
Right.
I'm not saying you can't do what I'm doing. I'm saying if you want to build something sustainable and really find a way to differentiate yourself, you're going to want to do it different. So I'm going to tell you how I do mine, but I'll probably tell you how we got there first. Because if you just try to copy the Attorney Ryan model, you're not going to stand out. So what do we do now? It's a mix. Drew is in the studio with us today. He is fantastic. We go to the studio once a week or every other week, and we'll do a 3-hour sprint, and we'll shoot 40 or 50 takes of little videos about news and labor law, things that are going on, advice on how to handle situations at work. And then he will edit them, put some music, some B-roll, and then we can roll those out as they're done. In the meantime, I've got my phone with me all the time. If I have some downtime at the office, I'll point it at my face and I'll say, hey, if you're written up at work and you disagree with the write-up, here's what you can do. And throw that out there. It's a personal touch. There's some variety. And if I'm feeling a little silly, I'll do the dance. The dance videos work pretty well. People like them.
Yeah, they do well.
And then we've expanded, of course, into our own podcast. I wanted to give people an opportunity where I'm not trying to get everything in 60 seconds or less. We can really flesh out ideas a little bit more. So that's what the content plan looks like today. We're not doing content every day. We're really doing batching because I'm a lawyer first, content creator second. I really don't even consider myself a content creator. I'm a lawyer who wants people to know how the rules work. But in the beginning, it was just me and my phone. And no editing savvy. I have none. I would just point the camera at my face, say what I felt like saying. I kept it short. And then I'd throw it out there. And I didn't really care what my background looked like. I didn't care if the video was a little fuzzy or if my hair didn't look so good. There's no points for being crisp and clean. People just want information that's relevant to them. So in the beginning, it was just that. And then this year was when we decided to punch up our production value.
Yeah. What do you say to the attorney who's nervous or scared to break out their phone and talk to it and just give advice and be natural and organic?
It's tough because I can't give anyone a magic pill that makes you confident and not afraid of what people are going to say. I think you should ask yourself, why are you scared? Is it because you're afraid people are going to judge you and not like it? And the truth is that is going to happen. That is the price of fans. The price of fans is haters. And don't worry, there's going to be way more fans than haters because the people who are hating on your stuff, they're unhappy, miserable people projecting their own misery on you.
We want the haters.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm guilty of this. I've had videos where I knew some people would get upset. They wouldn't like it. And I just leaned into it. Like, you're going to comment. Your commenting is going to push it out to other people. And then the people who this is for, who need to see this, it's more likely they're going to see it because it got a bunch of engagement. My advice to attorneys is start small. Start with what you're comfortable with. If you don't like videos, take a picture of yourself and just superimpose it on a little blank screen that says, if you're arrested for your DUI, you have a right to representation, call this number. Just get your face out there. Do something. You didn't have to act. You didn't have to come up with a line. Try a short video. Don't make it perfect. Just get on there and tell people what your name is, where your office is, what you do, what's the number. Just try that to start with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just do that a couple of times.
That's the advice I give to people who maybe they can't afford our services, but I genuinely want people to win. And I'll give advice to anyone. You can ask me for advice, send me a DM, and I'll give you some tips. My biggest tip is make 100 videos. Don't worry about how perfect they are. Just write 100 ideas. They don't even have to be full thought out ideas. Make 100 ideas. Be like, I'm gonna make a video on each one of these ideas. I'm gonna not think about how I talk about it. Just gonna talk about it. 100 videos. And what you're gonna find is before you even reach that end of that list, you're gonna have shortened them. You're gonna have started saying them a certain way. How you look at you're gonna be way more confident. So when you do get the experience of getting comfortable in front of the camera, before you even hit that 100, you're gonna have a nice video, and then they'll carry you on.
It does, and there's a secondary effect to it too. The more comfortable you get communicating these ideas in your field in succinct, different, interesting ways, the more confident and informed you appear when you actually get that client. When the client comes to you with an issue, say, I have explained this topic 50 times, 50 different ways, and I can cater that explanation to this client, and the clients love it. Really, being a content creator, it's not just a great way to tell people you exist, because no one knows you exist. You got to tell them you exist. You exist, and it tells them you're an expert in the field, and it gives them a free sample too. Give people a free sample.
Exactly.
Free samples make you buy.
Exactly.
That's why I'm not afraid to get angry on my podcasts and my things. I'll show some anger and I'll get passionate and crazy. And some people have hated on it. They go, "Oh, you look so unprofessional." I can't. It's like, I am not telling people. I mean, how many billboards do you see with the old guy like this? We do aggressive representation.
Yeah.
You can almost hear that on the billboard. It doesn't sound real. But I get on there and I show you that I'm a passionate, energetic guy. And if I'm in court for you, I'm going to get my argument in and I'm going to dominate the other side. Now, is that really how litigation goes all the time? No. But the client sees that and goes, that guy's a fighter. He didn't tell me he's a fighter, but I can see it. He's got a crazy look in his eye on this camera. I want that guy.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a free sample.
Exactly. And you're educating, you're being a friend versus what I see a lot of attorneys, the mistake they make is come buy me or come use me, come give me money. Use my law firm. And you know what? Use my law firm. It's like instead of telling people, hey, come use my law firm, just be their friend. Talk to them, answer the questions that you get the most, educate them. You don't even have to tell them use my law firm. Just by doing that, they're gonna be like, I'm gonna use this guy because he's giving me information and I trust him.
Yeah, don't gatekeep the information. I mean, for lawyers specifically, they're so scared, like, wait, I charge for legal advice, and if I start educating people and I start talking about legal issues, what do they need me for? They need you.
No one's gonna go represent themselves. Well, thanks for that video. Now I'm gonna go represent myself.
Exactly.
Judge, I watched a TikTok and attorney Ryan said this.
Yeah, that's not going to go well for anybody. They can know when they need you, and you can give them some self-help. But ultimately, if they're going to go to court, they need someone who knows what they're doing in there.
Right.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah.
One thing I noticed that made me so happy is you posted you were hiring.
Yes.
And you got so many resumes.
Yeah.
And that just shows the power of putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Like not only are you acquiring a client acquisition, you're also talent acquisition. You're getting the top of the people who want to come work for you.
That's the wild thing. And I really didn't expect it. I don't know why I didn't expect it. The top comment on one of those posts was so funny because I made an apology. I said, listen, we got hit with so many resumes. Not everyone can get an interview. Not everyone can get a response. I'm so sorry. Just this was an emergency hire situation, and I'm only one guy, and we just can't get to everyone. And I hope you accept my sincere apology. And everyone's like, oh, well, isn't that nice? The top comment was, guy who advocates for workers' rights is surprised people want to work for him.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's actually what happened.
It's a cool comment.
But that could go for anyone. If you just show that you're like an authentic person,
Right.
and you're true about who you are, not everyone's going to like you. If some people are going to hate you, even irrationally. But a lot of people are going to resonate like, hey, this guy's not hiding. He's not bullshitting. This is who he is. And I like that guy. I'll be on his team. I want to be part of that mission.
Absolutely.
And that's what worked for us.
Yeah.
And we ended up hiring an awesome paralegal from that. I mean, talk about a strong start. She is on it. Really, really happy for her. So that worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Nice. What do you do with your content that just so? It's funny. I was watching some of your first videos on TikTok.
Oh, please don't do that.
We went all the way down.
I was showing Brandon. I was like, Brandon, listen to this TikTok. Now listen to this TikTok, right? And just notice how, he's sort of talking the same way, but it's a little bit more slow. It's a little bit more relaxed. And now he's punchier. He's on top of it. He's snappier with it, with his videos, with his deliveries. Like you can see the evolution of the videos.
Thank you for calling it evolution and not a decline. It's like, this is falling apart, man. This is an intervention. Actually, the cameras aren't even rolling. We need to talk to you about your shitty content. There should be some evolution in your content. You should not just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And there's a couple of mistakes I see new content creators make. The first is they give up way too soon. They do 50 videos and say, oh, it's not working. It's like, keep trying. You went viral once and then you copycatted that one viral video over and over again and it didn't go viral again. And you're like, what the hell? I don't know. Try different things. And also there's another trap you fall into. It's you find something that works and you just stick to it forever and ever and ever. That is not in a month, maybe not even a year, but eventually people are going to lose interest in you.
Right.
You've got to try different things, even if you found something that's working for you. I'm not saying change something, maybe add to it. Because one way to keep viewers' attention is that you're doing something new all the time. That's part of the motivation of the podcast.
Right.
Here's a new way to engage with the Attorney Ryan brand. and I'm bringing in all your favorite social media. I brought in Reb Maisel, we brought in Paige Sparks. I'm very excited. We have Jefferson Fisher coming in, all these big lawyers where it's like, if you like legal content and you follow these other attorneys, here's a chance to get to know them better. And we're still doing the short videos. And I'm still doing the dances that made me famous forever ago. I still get in there and shake my butt once in a while. It's what the people want, you know.
It's what the people
Well, now they want the workout videos.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. That's a new thing I'm trying to. I've always struggled with the personal aspect of my social media presence. I want to show people that I'm not just this fire-breathing attorney who's super crazy about workers' rights. I'm also a human being, and I am like you. I have a family, and I have struggles. You know, what is it, October 12th? A year ago, I made the decision not to drink alcohol anymore.
Nice, congratulations.
I mean, yeah, thank you. I'm not a complete stickler. I had a glass of champagne at my sister's wedding in April, and very special occasion, I might have a half glass of wine, but I cut it out of my life.
Yeah.
And I decided to start working out more and doing yoga, just trying to take care of my body. I'm in my 30s. I can't just drink as much as I want with no consequences anymore. And I want to start sharing that journey with people, because now I'm offering you a chance to be part of my life. Most of my content is still legal information. It's what most of the people want. But if you're interested, I'm inviting you into my life. And here's the struggles I dealt with. I'm not some perfect professional lawyer who has all the answers. I'm a human being having an experience just like you are.
And that's another reason for people to like you. Another reason for people to trust you. It's another reason for people to relate to you. It's not just the law anymore. It's like, oh man, it's what we call the and. It's like, oh, he's an amazing attorney, and man, he just quit alcohol a year ago. That's inspiring, man. I want to do that too. Or I did that also. I mess with this guy.
It is cool. It is cool. Now there are people who are going to roll their eyes and hate it. They're going to say stick to law. I get that all the time. I get that comment all the time. Stick to law. Stick to law. This is bullshit. I don't want to see you dance. I don't want to see you sweating on the treadmill. Just tell me the law. And it's like, okay, but that's one person.
Right,
you know,
exactly.
Don't get distracted by the negative comments. It's hard not to hyper focus on them, because they can really hurt you. Because sometimes there's a level of truth in them. You know, when I do something new and I get hate comments, I'm like, there's a part of me that agrees with them. And that's why it hurts so bad, because I tried something different. Maybe it didn't work out. But you've got to scale back and go, okay, this person didn't like it, but this post has 6,000 likes. It's got a few hundred shares. Most people seem to like it. So fuck this guy, you know?
Literally.
We take the negative comments so literally. You know who explained it the best was actually Jordan Peterson. He said the reason whether you like him or not, but like the reason he said the reason why the negative comments affect you a lot more than the positive comments. You can have 100 positive, that one negative comment is going to stand out, and it's because biologically we're designed. Negativity means danger. So we need to, so that's why we focus on the danger, the negativity.
Oh yeah, and as social animals, we're engineered to crave acceptance from our peers, because that's how look at us. I'm not fighting a tiger with these. I get my ass kicked. It was us being together. It was us unifying and being part of a tribe that kept our species alive for so long. It still does. It still does. We're out of the food chain. How cool is that? And it's because we work together. So we are biologically engineered to fear becoming an outcast. It's why loneliness is one of the most toxic things. It'll kill you faster than cigarettes will. Because our biology is saying you need acceptance from your peers to survive. And that's why a hate comment hurts so bad. Because that is a threat to your acceptance in the community. But you just need to have the mental strength to realize that 1, 2, even 50 or 100, in the grand scheme of things, you got to look, I still have a community. I'm still accepted somewhere. 1 or 2 bitter people leaving a net. And who leaves mean comments on the internet anyway?
What type of person
if we're looking
takes
for a
the time?
Trolls.
Exactly. Tell that guy to shut up. You know?
I actually like the negative comments because I'm like, yes, boost up my engagement.
Right.
We don't kink shame here. It's okay.
And it's funny. I had one of my friends, like my video with him did really well, one of his best performing videos.
Nice.
But there was so much, he turned off the comments. And I was like, no, turn the comments on. I want to see what the haters are saying. You know what I mean?
They will help you sometimes.
Creates perspective.
And it's also nice to have like a third party person, you know, like Drew is in the room with us today. He can help with that. That is someone who maybe won't take it as personal as you. It's not that they don't care. It's that they're not you. They're not the face on there, and they can look at it a little more objectively and be
with
like,
no emotion
hey,
inside.
You know, the way the delivery sucks on this, but you know, he has a point. We can change. We can be a little better. Let's think about what this person said. Sometimes that's the appropriate response.
It's when they're calling you fat.
Those are, yeah, it sucks. It's, you know,
Get in better shape.
I got called all kinds of names.
Which one stood out the most?
Nadav. Everyone thinks I'm Nadav.
The what?
Nadav, the producer for Two Bears, One Cave.
Oh, really?
Jewish guy, yeah. It's Seth Rogen. People keep saying,
Seth
"Oh, look,
Rogen,
it's Seth
yeah.
Rogen." Got a lot. The overwhelming majority of people, when they say celebrity doppelganger, it's either Nadav or Seth Rogen.
Right.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then
You
I
can't
didn't
do nothing
actually know who
about that.
Nadav was, and I googled him. And no disrespect to Nadav, I was just like, "Well, that guy's not winning, any." Celebrity handsomest man alive contest anytime soon. And it humbled me a bit, and I was like, well, I guess I should just really have good content because I'm not winning based on looks here.
We do what we can. We do what we
with
can.
the tools we have.
Where do you see the evolution of your content?
That's a really good question. So there is an end game here that is not a secret. I'm not trying to be secret here. I mean, look, I'm always going to be CEO of Centurion Trial Attorneys, and this is my baby, and my true passion is representing workers. So ultimately, we're trying to let people know what we do and that we're good at it. As far as the content goes, we're going to keep doing the podcast. I have an end goal. I really do want to have a show for YouTube. I'm not trying to sell it to a network or anything. It's a creative enterprise. Where I go to different jobs and I show people what it is like to work that job, and that's where we got the working class name. Where it's like almost like Dirty Jobs meets
Undercover Boss.
Yeah, something like that. Exactly. And I go and I show you what is it like to be an Amazon warehouse worker, and I work in that warehouse for a day, or what is it like to be the garbage man, and I go do garbage for a day, and I ask these people, what are your struggles? What does it get to be here? Do you like this job? Do you hate it? Why? What's next for you? And these human stories of working people, it's not just going to show you other opportunities that are out there if you're curious, but I think it's going to give us all what we need, which is a little less of this really tight tribalism that's developed over the past few years, where we're looking at other working people thinking they're trying to take something from us. And so we're all just trying to make ends meet. We're all just trying to pay our rent, and I think that'll be a really exciting project.
In order to accomplish that, are you gonna have to? Is it gonna have to be like a secretive thing, or are you gonna have to like partner with Amazon to do that? Or
I don't.
Sneaking in?
I think I've sued them enough. They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
I think more realistically, what's
gotta
going to
get
happen?
hired.
It's a pretty simple fix. We would just need permissions and agreements with them, and one of the agreements would probably have to be like, hey, you can't be representing people against us if you're going to do this, because you're going to become privy to information, and that's fine. We can conflict myself out of those things, and I think it can. Look, there's people listening today going, oh, he didn't know it's going to be impossible. Look, where there's a will, there's a way. There's ways to do these things. Okay, Gordon Ramsay does kitchen nightmares. He's been doing it for 20 years, and he finds all kinds of health code violations. He finds mice in the macaroni, and there's probably an agreement before then that he's not going to try to pursue a claim of any kind, and that's why they'll let you in. Anyway, that's on the horizon. We have a book coming out. I don't have a due date on it yet, or what to expect, but we do have a book about your rights coming out. So forward and onward, man.
How many books have you written?
7. Those are, the Snot Rocket series is like a passion project. That's it's like an educational but fun book for kids. Emperor of Vegas is that one I wrote in those lost years, and I really credit that book with just helping me focus my mind and not go crazy during a really dark time in my life. And so that was good. I wrote Understanding Trial Objections. It is a great guide to the rules of evidence and rules of procedure. I really recommend it for law students as well as practitioners. Criminal Procedure, that's all about your 4th, 5th, 6th Amendment rights, when cops can search you, what you can do in a search, how you protect yourself. The Dividend Hunter, I wrote just out of boredom. It's my own personal investing philosophy. I'm a value investor, and I thought I'd talk about that with people. Am I forgetting one? I don't think I am.
Can you go into the value investing? What is value investing?
Oh, it's just looking at the fundamentals of a company. And the idea here is I'm not looking for the next Monster Energy or the next Amazon or whatever. I'm just looking at strong, financially sound companies with a good balance sheet, with steady growth opportunity. And I park my money there and I get a safe dividend returned on it. So the principle is safe. I mean, this is the core of value investing, is making sure that your principal capital is safe. So we find a nice company that's not going anywhere, and we have steady growth, typically with the dividend. And that's been my philosophy. And I like that because it kind of shields me from the crazy up and downs of the market. I'm not sitting here trying to pick winners. There's risk in investing, but if you start treating the stock market like a casino, maybe you'll get lucky and be okay. I meet people like that all the time, but more people lose at the casino than win.
Yeah.
And it stops treating it like a casino and instead treats it like Shark Tank. You know, show me your books, show me the financials. Why should I give you my money? Is it going to give me more money? Stop treating the stock market like a casino. It's not a casino. You are Mark Cuban. This is Shark Tank. Those companies pitch to you when they release their financials every quarter.
Yeah.
Who has earned your money?
Right.
That's what I look for.
The intelligent investor.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. That was a big inspiration for my own investing philosophy. The truth is, though, I think Intelligent Investor is kind of dense. It's an old book, and
It's hard to read.
It's a tough read. So I took Dividend Hunter and I tried to say, look, how do we put this in 2020 terms? How do I take 1970s, 1980s technical ideology and make it something where maybe a kid got their first couple of paychecks and hopefully they're doing okay and they're thinking, hey, what can I do with my money? I would like them to see that book and be responsible with it.
Yeah.
Look, I say in the very beginning, this is not a get rich quick. This is not, you're going to be a millionaire at 30, but if you are patient and take your time, it is a really high probability that your money's going to grow over time and be safe. Not promising it will be, but the main reason people don't copy Warren Buffett, he has always said, is because no one wants to get rich slow.
Right.
And he's been rich for a long time. People forget that his wealth did this.
Yeah.
It hockey sticked. You know, he was in the game for a long time before he really started making headlines.
Yeah.
I totally get that. Like in my 20s, I was very impatient. I looked at life like checkers, today and tomorrow, today and tomorrow, today and tomorrow. When I didn't become a millionaire at 30 and I went broke, I realized, let's start playing it like chess. Let's start thinking in 5 and 10 years, 15 years.
It's funny. Things started going a lot better for me financially when I started having the patience to play the long game and not trying to make a big score or a home run overnight. I find, especially as a business owner, every dollar I put into Centurion trial attorneys comes back to me much more than the stock market does. But you have to be patient. You can't just go, I'm going to sign 1 million clients. You need to build infrastructure. You need to make sure that the quality of the services you're providing is good. Are we consistently getting higher settlement values than our competitors? Are we putting maximum pressure? So putting the time in to be patient with yourself. And this isn't just money. This is a personal development thing too. If you're insecure, especially the young men out there, if you're insecure and you just feel like no one wants you, no one wants to hang out with you, you can't get a job and life is hard, do your best to be patient with yourself. Play the long game. I don't think my life really got fun until my early 30s. It's a long game that you got to play, but you build a strong foundation and you build the mental strength and the ability to solve problems. And as you go through life, ideally, you're developing more and more tools for solving problems because the problems don't stop. Your life doesn't get easier. Your ability to cope with challenges gets better.
Right.
Cool. Yeah, and I think, like driving, think of the first day you drove as a 16-year-old. Going on a street, 35, and it felt like the scariest thing you ever did in your life, right? You hit 40 miles an hour, you're like, oh my God. And then you're in your 30s and you're not even thinking when you do it.
Yeah.
The driving didn't change.
Right.
It didn't get any fat, just your ability to handle it got better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I like what you said, that when you're young and you feel like no one wants to be your friend and this and that. It's like you will get to a point where people want to be your friend. Everyone wants to get to know you, and you just gotta allow yourself to build up to that.
Yeah, having some calmness and some confidence in yourself. Not everyone's going to like you, and that's okay. But if you're confident in yourself and you really try your best, people are going to like you, and you're going to have friends. And ultimately, once you get some friends, things get a lot better really fast. If you're sitting there like, oh man, things are really not working out for me. What skills can I develop? Develop your friendship skills.
Yeah,
develop
absolutely.
your conversation skills.
Yeah.
Learn. Yeah, go ahead.
That reminds me of something you said about when you were in school, you were tutoring. You weren't inside, introverted, just writing your book, not talking to people.
Yeah.
You're putting together these groups. You're outside. You're being seen. And I think that's the biggest thing is be outside, give value, and be seen. Don't be stuck inside trolling comments, playing video games. Like I get a lot of hate because I say playing video games is a waste of time. But it is. Be outside.
That's so funny. It's like full disclosure. I play computer games. Yeah. That's my nighttime ritual because you do need downtime in your brain, and especially someone like me. I have a weakness, and my weakness is I skew towards anxiety. I skew towards high energy, rapid thoughts. Not necessarily productive. I just start getting a little anxious and in my head. And what I like about computer games is it gives my brain a task to focus on that's a little more engaging than a movie or a show might be. And it just cools the jets. We talked about the ebbs and flows and make way for that. That's my cool down ritual. It's like I'm just playing a dumb little game and it doesn't matter. But do you know what? Everything up here is just cruising.
What game do you like to play?
Sid Meier's Civilization. It's the only game I play.
How do you not get like so I don't play video games for one reason is I have once I start something, I have to finish it. If I start a movie, a TV series, I have to finish it to the end. Like nothing matters until I finish it. If I read a good book, I have to finish that book. If I only played a video game once, like in the last like almost 2 decades. It was Grand Theft Auto 5, I think it was, on the computer, and I literally finished that game in a week just because I was like, I cannot like work until I finish this video game.
You're mission oriented. It's why you're a successful business owner, because you got in here and you worked the 15-hour days because you're like, I need to accomplish the mission. I need to finish the mission. You just gotta. It takes practice. You just gotta say, look, that I don't play online games. I don't engage with people. I get too hooked. It feels too real. I play against a computer. The purpose of it is not to challenge myself. It is not to do anything productive. It's a meditation. The whole purpose is just I'm giving my brain something to do to chill out.
Yes.
Right.
That's the purpose. And I identify the game as rest. And if the game is too exciting, not saying Civilization's not a great game, but there's a reason I don't play, Modern Warfare or Call of Duty or anything like that, because that's not the purpose. I've decided there's a purpose that the gaming has a place in my life.
Right.
And the purpose is it is a restful time for your brain. It is a meditative time.
And everybody has a different way to accomplish that, right? You know what I'm saying? Video games isn't yours.
Yeah.
No, and look, it's really dorky. It's really dorky, and I think most guests
Nerd.
It's fine. You got to be a nerd. You got to be a nerd.
You got to nerd out on something.
And I wonder how many people would come on a podcast like this and say, well, don't say that because you sound like a 12-year-old. You sound like an idiot. You sound like a dork. I mean, all the hot content is saying, don't waste times on Netflix. Don't waste times on this. It's like, I'm going to be authentic and tell you I am a human being and I have limited amounts of energy.
Right.
And my brain can only take so much active problem-solving time before it needs a break.
Yeah.
Right.
And however you get that break, please stay away from drugs. It's
Right.
not
Don't do
ideal.
drugs.
Don't do drugs. But do something that gives you that break, even if it's something that people may not think
Right.
is cool.
Well,
Even if it's a little dorky.
The biggest difference between what you're saying and what I was thinking was a lot of people, like video games are so addicting, and they are playing Call of Duty, and they are playing online, and they will spend 10 hours a day playing it, and they won't go outside, versus what you're saying is like, I just need some downtime from my day-to-day, where I'm so active in my business and my content and everything going on.
Right.
I need those few hours to just relax.
Because
Take away
most people can't manage it.
Yeah.
It's like if you're a healthy eater, you have control over what you eat, and you can go splurge and eat, your cake or your burger or whatever it is, but you have the habits or the self-control to always go back. But most people, when they go there, then they stay there. You know what I'm saying?
There's
It's
a place
like-
for discipline. And
Yeah,
certainly being
exactly.
busy helps. I mean, frankly,
yeah.
I couldn't do that even if I really wanted to. My problems will get my attention very quickly.
How do you find time to still work out?
That is hard. Drew's laughing because he knows I have a very chaotic workout schedule, and I ignored it for a long time because I had so much work to do, and then I realized empty space in a day is actually good for you. It's where your best ideas will come through. I mean, I'm building new departments and new systems in my firm all the time, and it's through dead space that I do it. I can't create new revenue streams for us if I'm just buried in work. You need space. But where do I come up with the time? I really like early afternoon or late morning. I like middle of the day. I like middle of the day because the gym is mostly empty and it's peaceful. And it's a luxury I have that I never had before. And as a business owner, I work hard. I work late nights. I work early mornings. I work weekends. But I have the freedom to create middle of the day, typically around that lunch hour. I can go into the gym. And I'm not saying don't work hard or don't be disciplined. You should be, but there comes a point where your hard work starts to pay off and little luxuries become available to you. And one of the luxuries that I have now as a successful business owner is that I can choose to work out in the middle of the day.
Right.
And that's how I use that luxury.
Yeah, because most people can't.
And thank God it's made a huge change.
Yeah.
I was just looking at a video of myself. The Dr. Phil clip was the wake up call. They chose the worst angle on me. I swear to God, the angle. And I look at my face in that video and I look at my face now and I'm like, that's clearly a healthier guy. I look like I aged backwards.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
it was a good use of that luxury, that extra time.
How'd you get invited on Dr. Phil?
Oh God, screaming about workers' rights a lot. You ruffle some feathers. The episode was about quiet quitting. It was about workers coming into the office and they just do the bare minimum not to get fired. It's the classic Peter in Office Space where he come in and says, look, I just come in, do the bare minimum not to get fired. It was about that. And they invited me and a CEO, actually a local guy, Brett Wisely. You know him. Yeah, exactly. They invited him to kind of be the employer's side of the debate, and they invited me to be the worker's side of the debate. And we had a little debate about it. And it was really fun. I thought it was really fun. There was some parts where we really got hot and they took it out, but it was fun. I'm actually really grateful to Brett because we saw the issues very, very differently, and we came out for each other. And it was fun.
Would you be open to doing that again right here on this
Oh,
stage?
totally.
So
totally.
I
love debates. Yeah.
So we want to do. Actually, Scott Wilson, you actually commented. I don't know if you knew, but you commented on our video. We had a video that is gaining a lot of traction. The old man talking about. That's our video from here.
I saw that video and I saw it was you guys, and it definitely he was saying things, and it's not that I don't feel his frustration or his pain, but quite candidly, utmost respect, I think he's looking at the issue wrong, and I think he's got to change his mindset.
Sounds like a great head-to-head.
And look, and it's nothing against him. I'm sure he's a great guy. I think one of the problems we have is it's very ineffective as leaders if we just start making it us versus the employees. If you have bad employees exist, if you have bad actors, get rid of them. You fire early, fire often. You're hearing that from the workers' rights guy. If it's a bad fit, let them go. But if you're finding that you can't keep anybody, no one wants to work anymore. I can't. These ungrateful kids. At some point, you got to accept the fact that there's a common denominator in all these failed employment relationships. And you can't just say, oh, it's this generation, it's this and that. You got to take a look at yourself and wonder if there's something you're doing. Is your hiring process screwed up? Are you not screening people right? Is your workplace a dystopian nightmare? Does it suck to work here?
Right.
Those are the questions you got to ask yourself.
Man, we should have you both on the pod and just have you guys Discord it out. Dude, that'd be great.
Happily, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm into a busy month coming up, but you call me anytime. I'd be happy to do a debate. And it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Definitely.
Yeah, that would be cool. And we can leave in the heated parts.
No, it was good. It was cool. What I liked about the debate with Brett is there was real passion, and people were not afraid to say, you're wrong, I think you're wrong, I don't know why you're saying what you're saying, but then they explain their point. It's not just personal attacks, so, you're a communist, you're bad, you hate America. It's like, hey, I see your opinion, but I think it's bogus. Here's my opinion, and here's why I think it's better than yours. And that's a good debate. I like that debate.
That's Discord. That's educated. Let's try to meet middle ground. We can still disagree.
We'll have boxing gloves ready.
Yeah.
Oh, right on.
Hey, that's elderly abuse, bro.
Hey, you don't think Scott
old man strength's a real thing, man. Old man strength's a real thing.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone who was 18, 19, puberty started to hit, you think, I'm going to wrestle my dad. And then you wake up a week later, like, what the hell happened?
Have you ever did that with your dad?
Yeah, I remember when I was in high school, I thought I'd wrestle with him a bit, and he threw me over the couch. And I remember I was like, he doesn't do anything. I'm on a swim team. How did he just KO me?
Not right now.
And then he was like, experience. And I'm like, this is bullshit.
It's all over here.
Yeah.
Man.
That's crazy. You got any questions for us?
I think we've had a really awesome talk, guys, and I'm really open to a debate. I appreciate everything you're doing here. I love that you built your business, and I know we've taken up a lot of airtime, so maybe next time I'm here, I'll ask you some questions.
No questions.
I think, this has been the longest podcast we've ever did.
But it flew by.
God forbid you get a lawyer to shut the hell up. Sorry, guys.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Please plug in your information where people can find you.
Absolutely. If you liked what you heard today, you can find more of me at Attorney Ryan on Instagram and TikTok, at Ryan Steiger on YouTube. And if you hated what you heard today, you can follow me on those things and comment. I appreciate the engagement.
All right. You want to close this out?
And that's been the Get Louder podcast. We out.